starting Be'ez Hashem Siman Mem Hey, Vayoel Moshe. And this is a continuation of Mem Daled. Mem Daled was about the Kli Yakar that that if Hashem, if Hashem wouldn't have written Bereshis Bara Elokim, people would say that the Torah is not true, and then they would say, why when the Yidden took the land, why didn't Hashem stop them? Must be that Hashem doesn't pay attention to the world. So now I'm going to explain that this is not across the board. This is not by all Averis and all mitzvahs.
But the Aver of Golos and Geula, definitely yes.
Right. But now he's going to explain that in other things, even though it's in the hands of Hashem, we still have a role to play. We still have Hishtadlus to do. In Golos and Geula, it's an exception. Even there, even though normally there's a din Hishtadlus, normally you're supposed to do something to help make things happen naturally. You're supposed to work for a living. You're supposed to go to doctors. But in this case, you're not supposed to interfere in the Hashem's world.
Right, but the only reason we do Shalosh is because Hashem decreed, and we always need His decree to do Shalosh, because Hashem is one, there's none but Him. However, we only do Shalosh out of His decree.
Right. So here,
not to, then we're denying that He is one, there's nobody but Him. Because anyhow, the only reason we work or see a doctor is only and only because Hashem decreed.
Yes, that's what he's going to say in this Siman. So let's see. I already brought down, this is in Siman Yud Ches, brought down the famous Medrash on the pasuk Yodoya Teda by Avram Avinu. Hashem said to Avram, know that I will make them strangers in the land, not theirs. Yodoya Shani Mefazram, know that I will scatter them. Teda Shani Mechansam, know that I will gather them in. Yodoya Shani Meshabdam, I'm the one putting them into exile, into Shibud. And Teda Shani Goylam, and know that I'm the one who's going to redeem them. No one else. It's very strange, very hard to understand why the Torah has to repeat the word Yodoya Teda lahazir to warn es Avraham Avinu, all of Hashem, to warn Avraham Avinu. The prati yisal elu hanyanim shel galus ugula v'kibbutz galus sheyeda shu me'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That Avram should know that the galus and the geula and gathering the Yidden comes from Hashem. Anyone who believes in Hashem and believes in the Yid Gimel Ikrim knows that everything's from Hashem.
The first Animam and Munushlema,
right.
Shmo, Korbrim, Hu Vado, Asa, Osavian, says Kol Maisim.
Right, exactly. That's what he says here. Who echad miyud gimel hikrim leida shehu levado yisbarach shmoy asa ve'oisa b'yasa l'chol masim.
The first one. The first one of all.
So why does the Torah have to say, especially by Galus and Geula, that it's going to be done by Hashem? Doesn't it? Isn't it obvious? Isn't it like anything else? Why should it be different from anything else? All right. So. V'chasav Ramban b'soif Parshas Boy she'ein lo adam chelik b'Torahs Moshe, that person doesn't have any share in the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Ramban in Parshas Boy says ad shenamin b'chol dvoreinu u'mikreinu shekulam nisim, that we have to believe that everything that happens to us is nisim. Ein bohem teva u'minhago shel olam bein b'yachid bein b'rabim. There's no such thing as nature. Sign the people things that happen to individuals, and sign things that happen to large groups. Now, what he means is not that they're open, violations of nature happening like Kriyas Yamsuf. He means that basically there's schar v'oinish in the world, and therefore, how could a person get schar v'oinish? Naturally speaking, naturally there's no schar and oinish, right? Everything that happens to a person is obviously not natural, but it's dressed up like as if it's natural. Okay, v'chein Rambam Zal be'igeres Teimon Pirush HaKosuvim Telchu Imi Keri. The Rambam says and this is also, by the way, in other places in Hilchos Tainus, I think the Rambam says it when he's talking about what we have to do on the Tainus. We have to do tshuva, and we have to realize that whatever happened that was bad came from Hashem, and we shouldn't say that it was just natural. And that's the pshat in the pasuk. V'imtelchu imi keri. If you go with me with just happenstance, things just happen to happen. The people will think that things happen by chance.
So keri means that somebody thinks that the tzar happened by chance and leaves it to nature.
Right. So then the Tochacha says there that it will get worse.
It's the Zionist thing about Tisha B'Av that was just happened by chance, and there was a magic coming from Hashem.
So that's the Aveira of Telchu Imi Keri. So since that's what the Rambam says, obviously we have to believe that everything is from Hashem. Everything's happening because Hashem wants it to happen. V'chein kosev gam b'sefer HaMoyer. He says in the Mor Nebuchim also the same thing. V'im kein tema masha darshu chachamenu zal b'yitur dekra. So why do Chazal have to darshan a special pasuk here from an extra word? The Adoya Teda, the koi bepratius al elu advarim shel galus segula. That it's going on these things of galus and gula leid Hashem yakodesh baruch hu. Ki'ilu chas v'shalom v'sharin yohan meinu ken. It's as if they're saying that only this is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the other things are not. Okay? Aval, so the answer is al emes habarur hu v'sharin yohanim afsha kol hu b'ashgacha. Even though by other things it's also ashgacha, mikomachim omer hakostuv l'man yivarechecha Hashem elokecha. There's a mitzvah of hishtadlus. That Hashem should bless you b'chol maaseh yodecha asher taseh. It says beferish that you do actions, and Hashem blesses those actions, makes them successful, and that's the channel through which Hashem gives you hatzlacha. So shetzarich shaloi leishev bata milaseh. You're not allowed to sit and just do nothing, right? Gam amru ein soim ch'mal nes. You're not supposed to rely on miracles. If you're going in the street, you have to be careful. If you get sick, you have to go to a doctor. Ramban says there, the end of Ekev, the da ki hanisim lo yasel toiva oy l'ra. Good nisim or bad nisim, the interventions in nature only happen rak l'tzadikim gemurim oy l'rashayim gemurim. They only happen if someone's completely to one extreme or completely to the other extreme. But people in the middle, that Hashem guides them according to the nature of the world. So therefore, but the Ramban says in the middle of the sentence, according to their ways, Hashem pays them back. So Hashem does do schar v'oinish, but just it looks like teva. Umasha costa b'parshas boy sha'akol nisim. He says in Parshas Boy that everything is nisim. Hakavana sha'af ha'malubash b'teva hu nisim nistarim. He means only the things that look like nature are really nisim. But you still have to act as if it's not an ace. So in all things, let's say shidduchim, right? You're not supposed to say, okay, it's bas 20 to 20. I don't have to do anything. I'm just sit back. No, you got to do your ishtadlus. Everything's like that. This is the pasuk. Where's the proof? The proof is this medrash here in this pasuk.
Who is the pasuk
in Parshas Lech Lecha? That the medrash darshan is Yodoya shani mishabdam teda shani goyelam. Know that I'm the one who's going to redeem them, and not anybody else, and not even a hishtadlus. That's the chiluk. He says. You have to know that only Hashem is the one who does it. We have no right to do any actions. Just to do tshuva and be zoicha to the gula through ma'asim tovim. That's why the Torah went out of its way to write. No, you should know that Hashem is the one who is putting us in galus, and He's the one who's taking us out. In other words, this is not like other things. Okay, now just to take a break for a second, I want to explain what happened here. In this Siman, there are really different ways to learn. When it says Yodoya Teda, you could either learn that this is like a way of looking at the world. If you see that there's a geula, you should know that it's from Hashem. And then the other way to learn would be to say, no, it's a command to us. Watch out! Don't do anything towards the geula. Only Hashem can do it. So in the beginning of this Siman, the Rebbe started out learning like the first pshat. He started out learning that it's kind of like a description nevuah. It's saying that if this happens, so you should know that it's Hashem doing it. So his kasha was, what do you mean? If anything happens, you know that Hashem's doing it. So his teretz is, no, it's not just a statement, it's a command, it's a warning. It's Yodoya Teda that only Hashem is the one who's going to do it. It's different. Okay, now, the kasha is going to be that sometimes you do see hatzlacha, and like the Kliyaka said, it's impossible that someone would do this and Hashem wouldn't step in. Well, we sometimes do see that that there are people who are matzliach and doing what they're not supposed to do in this inyan of galus and gulas. He says, if you see that there is some hatzlacha by the Zionists who take the geula without against the Torah, it's similar to the hatzlacha of avodah zarah. That the Gemara says avodah zarah could sometimes do wisdom also. Sometimes you find that they pray to the getchka and they get a refuah. They get what they want. So the Gemara in avodah zarah daf nun hey. He says, "Sha'amru."
Yeah, you write that in your book.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Sha'amru al zeh b'Gemara avodah zarah daf nun hey amud aleph habol tamei poischim loy. If someone tries to become tamei himself with avodah zarah, Hashem will give him a little help. And he'll tell him, he'll make it look
open the door for him, but not actually help him.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It's a lashon of poiskin, like opening the door.
Right, but he doesn't actually take him and push him in.
That's Messiah noisei, but here it's balotame poiskin, like. But nasel lahem af nisim gedolim. So it could be that someone who does avodah zarah could have even a great, amazing miracle.
Of course, he lost his natural shmira, and it goes out of order at this point.
I said when the false Navi says, go do avodah zarah, sometimes he can make a miracle and it will really happen.
Yeah, he can make the sun stand still, the sky above the dead even.
And it says, don't listen to him, ki menasa, because Hashem is testing you. Hashem Elokeinu eschem. V'ayin b'sefer Chasidim, Siman Taf Reish Nun Daled, Sefer Chasidim Chasid Rishon, right? She'adam ra matzliach yoiser. An evil person could be matzliach more because ra. He's more matzliach in his bad that he does than when he tries to do good. Okay, it's like natural. He's not going to have extra, extra amazing success. Because Hashem knows that this person is already headed for for Gehenna. So he wants to make sure, even for the little good that he does, he won't get Olam Haba. So he makes that by the good things he does, he's not so matzliach, and the bad things he does, he's very matzliach. But Ayin Medrash Talpios. Medrash Talpios is a sefer like 300 years ago, written by Rabbi Cohen from Smyrna, Turkey.
Izmir today.
Izmir, yeah. So. He wrote this sefer, and it says Anaf Hatzlacha in the section about Hatzlacha. Sheherich Bozeh. He goes on about the Hatzlacha of Rishaim. Behavi she'imu oivrim al acherim matzlichim. He says, let's say someone makes a cherim not to do a certain thing, and people are over on it, and they're matzliach. So he says, why are they being matzliach? Hu kadei lipara mehem. It's in order to get more punishment from them. If they do more bad, they'll be punished more. They'll be punished afal hatzlacha, even on this extra success. Uvimei ben koziva, and he says people shouldn't be spoiled from the success of the Medina, because uvimei ben koziva hayalam hatzlacha nifloa. There was even greater success in the time of Ben Koziva. Kemapur medrash chazal. The Midrashim say the nimshachat lachasam tesvav shana, that they continued with their rebellion for 15 years before the Romans put it down. Kemavur b'seder adoyers. Demasha Amr b'Gemara Shahaya Beish Shanim U'Matzah. This day the Gemara says that it was only 2.5 years. Kivnu al ben Koziva ho achroin. Hu basoiv. Acher chaf alaf shana haya asla noira. After 21 years, they were finally defeated. So first there's 15, now he's saying 21. I don't know exactly what this means, but there is a steer in Jewish chronology and Goyish chronology about Ben Koziva. Goyim say it was in like the year 130, and we say it was like the year 120. So the teretz has to be that it continued for a long time. The rebellion started and it continued, and the final defeat was around 130 something, 133, 132.
So goes to Eish, also steer.
So anyway, so he says after 21 years there was a tremendous tragedy. Rahman al-Islam, the Herod Rav, a great massacre, something that was greater than all the massacres and any other churban shahaya lifneim that was before it. Uverush Masech the Brachas, Parshas Perak Shalosh Shachlu, the Perak of Brachas that talks about benching and it talks about the bracha of Atoy ve'Ametiv. Chazal were mistaken Atoy ve'Ametiv because of the Harugei Beitar.
Yeah, the Hirsch Sitter, you mentioned that in your book.
Yeah. So Sha'achlu, the Shalosh Shachlu, Siman Chaf Beis, For Huva Gamba Beis Yosef, this Rashi is also brought in the Beis Yosef Siman Pei Test. Birksat Toive Ametiv, the Koyal Aruge Beitar, that this bracha was written because of the when the people who were killed in Beitar were allowed to be buried. So Amrinan B'Yushalmi, Kishanechra Beitar Nigda Keren Yisrael. The Yushalmi says when Beitar was destroyed.
Is Masechta in Yushalmi?
I think it's brachas. That when Beitar was destroyed, or it could be it's the Tainus. The Yerushalmi Tainus is where the story of Ben Kuziva is all written. So it could be it's written there too. So the pride of the Jewish people was cut down. The Eno Asida Lachzor, it's not going to come back ad Shiyav ben David until Mashiach comes. That's why this Churban Beitar, the bracha of Atoiv Metiv, was next to the bracha of Bnei Yerushalayim.
But you see that once we lost so much Torah, we can forget about totally bring up Gil ourselves. Once we lost so much Torah.
V'hinei anshe Beitar hayu tzadikim gemurim. Now this is nothing to do with today's Zionists, because today they're Rishaim, and those days they were tzadikim gemurim, kasher eveisi l'mayla. That they wouldn't have thought that Ben Kuziva was Mashiach, or Bekiva wouldn't have thought he was Mashiach unless it was a door of tzadikim. And still, through this war, the pride of the Jewish people was cut down. Why? Because no matter how big of a tzaddik you are, if you're pushing for the end of Galus before the time, it's a terrible, bitter thing. Worse than any other. Worse than even the most severe Averis in the Torah. So that goes back to the pasuk of Yadoi Teda, that you have to know not to do it, because in this Inyan there's no such thing as Hishtadlis, and you see what terrible consequences could come out of being over on it. Know you shall know with a very clear knowledge. If we're going to go and take the Geula without the Torah's permission, it's complete heresy, it's complete denying of the Torah. So now going back to the Kli Yakar, why he says that's going to cause Kfira, it makes sense now. You can't even begin the Torah, even if you're going to put it in later, you can't. You have to put it in right at the beginning. You have to right away have at the beginning of the Torah a clear knowledge that Hashem is the creator. Hashem gave the world. Hashem gave the land of Eretz Yisrael to the Yidden, and therefore it's not just a Zionist movement. It's Hashem giving it to us. And if not for that, then you can't start the Torah.
So see, if you're koifer in the very beginning of the Torah, it might as well be lost already. You might as well lose by having.
That's what we see today. That when the Zionists start taking Eretz Yisrael, and then they're without any intervention from Hashem, and people are saying they're stealing it, so that causes people to have less respect for Yidden, less respect for the Torah.
They're violent,
and Yidden are violent, and then the whole Kiddush Hashem that's supposed to be coming out from the Torah, and the Yidden are showing the Torah to the world and spreading it around the world. The opposite is happening.
They're making the Jews build themselves on weapons and war, and all Judaism is built on weapons, war, and fights. And and that's how Jews live. They live by swords and guns, and bombs.
So now back to a kasha that we had in Siman Lamed Beis. Remember, the kasha was that the Medrash says that the Bnei Ephraim were punished because they were avru al kates, avru al shvuah. So the question then was, what are these two things? Bishlam with the shvuah, we know they were over on the shvuah. What's avru al kates? What's it mean that they transgressed the end?
What was the answer?
If there's no shvuah, we didn't have an answer yet. But if there's no shvuah, then what's the transgression at the end? Obviously, it's something separate from the shvuah. So he says the answer is going to be that like we said here, that it's not just the shvuah. It's the whole Inyan that Hashem is the one who does the geula. He's the one who put us in galus, and if we're going to come back on our own without the tshuva and without the system that the Torah set up, it's considered kfir. So that's what he says here. Avru al kates v'avru al shvuah shechilkun b'tarte. The Medrash splits it into two different things. Why? Ki be'emes ha'avar al kates hu bi'atzmoi iser gadol v'noyer. That aside from the oath, being over on the kates and going back before the end is itself a tremendous iser. Milvad iser ha'shvuah. Ki hu legamri neged ha'amunah k'mabur. It's completely against the amunah. Umiyushav gam ma she'omer b'mechilta al zeh now we understand what the pshat in the Mechilta was. Also in Siman base, he asked the kasha that the Mechilta says on the Bnei Ephraim, that the Bnei Ephraim refused to follow the Torah.
And wasn't given yet, but we said before.
Right, right. The Torah wasn't given. So he says, because you can't even start believing in the Torah, start with the mitzvahs. If you think you can get out of Galus, they were Maamar, they were refusing to go in his Torah, meaning the Hakdama to the Torah, the Beishis Bar Lakim. Okay, Gam Yesh Loimar. He's saying another reason why it could be that the Bnei Ephraim were over on the Torah. He says the Kvar Amdu Harishonim Zal. The Rishonim talk about the question of B'mash Nemar Anochi Hashem. The Aseres Adibur starts out Anochi Hashem Asher Yitzisicham Eretz Mitzrayim. V'lo Yomer Asher Barasi Shemayim V'aretz. Why didn't Hashem introduce himself by saying Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Barasi Shemayim V'aretz? So the Ibn Ezra talks about it on Chumash, and really before him the Kuzari talked about it. You know the Kuzari, Rabbi Yehuda Levi.
Yes.
So one of the first things he says there to the Melech is that he says, "I'm a Jew. I come from the Jewish people who went out of Mitzrayim, and Hashem did nisim for us and took us out of Mitzrayim, and gave us the Torah." So the Melech said, "Why did you start with Yitzis Mitzrayim? Why are you telling me about special personal things that happened to the Jewish people? Tell me about something universal. Tell me about the creation of the world."
What did he answer?
So he answered that the creation of the world is a philosophical union. It's something that you can think on your own. Okay, I know that there must be a creator. You bring proofs to it, rational proofs. But all these rational proofs are not 100% because you could always find holes in them. You know, you could always go the wrong way with them, take them the wrong direction.
Something that you experience personally. Right. I'm sorry.
So knowing Hashem from experience is the greatest proof of Hashem. That's the Kuzari's teretz.
Yeah.
They say that Ibn Ezra was the son-in-law of the Kuzari. Not so. I don't know if it's proven historically, but that's what they say. So the Ibn Ezra on Chumash brings down that his father-in-law asked him this question. I don't know if he says my father. He says Rabbi Yehuda Levi asked me this question, and he says his own teretz, and he says basically the opposite. Take a look. He says v'tiretz shebrias shemayim v'aretz lo noida livnei adam. The Rebbe is quoting the Ibn Ezra here. He says that the creation of shemayim and aretz is not known to people. To simple people. You have to be a very big, wise philosopher to be able to figure out that there's a creator, just by looking at the world. Every single Jew, no matter how simple they were, understands Yitzis Mitzrayim. That it was amazing and everything that happened.
Even the Goyim saw it and knew right away. We even say that in the Torah itself, that even the Amalek knew, but they decided they would just be rebellious.
Right. So that's why Hashem started out the Aseret Adibros with Yitzis Mitzrayim, because Yitzis Mitzrayim is something that every Jew could relate to. Ram Ibn Ezra, Ushar Rishon Zal.
Moshe does this.
Basically, but I think the Ibn Ezra is saying that the Brias HaOlam is a higher madrega. If you want to believe in Hashem because of philosophy and creation,
it's very hard.
It's a higher madrega. It's Ibn Ezra's shita, the opposite of the Kuzari. Listen, but he says that if you're not on that madrega, you don't understand Brias HaOlam, then Yitzis Mitzrayim is good enough. So Hashem started out with Yitzis Mitzrayim, but basically the Kuzari is the opposite. It's the old machlokes, the philosophers against the believers in Revelation. I don't know what to call it. Okay, now V'im Kain Lafi Das B'nei Ephraim. But either way, Yitzis Mitzrayim is very important. So if the B'nei Ephraim went out of Mitzrayim without any nisim, they just broke out, walked out of Mitzrayim, and went out and started fighting wars, and they didn't wait for any Esther Makas to happen, any Kriyas Yamsuf. So they weren't zoichet to be Makabel the Torah. The point is the B'nei Ephraim were Yidden, so why weren't they Makabel the Torah? Because they didn't go through the stage of Yitzis Mitzrayim first. He says, they didn't wait for the tremendous revelation of the Esther Makas. So they didn't have the foundation to start the Torah on. The whole Torah is based on Yitzis Mitzrayim. This is a different shot. This is not like what he was saying before with the Kliyakra, that the Torah is based on Brias HaOlam. Now he's saying no, the Torah is based on Yitzis Mitzrayim. So if you skip over that, then you're not zochel to the Torah. He says, "K'moy shabir hara'ah b'sefer hachinuch." Come upon him. Many times Sefer Chinuch talks about mitzvahs that are Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim, and he says that that's the Yisrael of the Torah. Yishar Svarim HaKadoshim. L'chein Omer al Zeh u'b'Toirasoi me'anu l'leches, that the Bnei Ephraim refused to follow the Torah. Why? She'ef shelo l'kabbalas haTorah. You can't come to accept the Torah in this way. L'fi darkam, in their way. She'ef shalikach gula mi'atzman, that you could just go out of Mitzrayim on your own. Because you have to have the real geula from Hashem in order to show that Hashem is the one in charge. In the future geula, that it says in the Gemara Brachos, the end of the first parak, it says that in those days the main thing will be the geula then of Mashiach, and then Yetzias Mitzrayim will be back burner. He says, "V'is man de Omar." There's one man de Omar there that says she's batal gamri as kar as Yetzias Mitzrayim. Right? There's a machlokes if maskir Yetzias Mitzrayim the voice of Mashiach or not. Ben Zoyma and the Chachamim. So, according to one shita, there's no Yetzias Mitzrayim at all in the voice of Mashiach. I think Ben Zoyma. V'alkorch shehiyeh boy he's galus lo heroas emuna. Obviously, the geula of Mashiach will be such a great revelation to show our emunah. Yoiser Yetzias Mitzrayim. It must be greater, because if it's just equal or smaller, then there's no reason to forget about Yetzias Mitzrayim.
And the Zionists say that the miracles that happened to Israel were greater than Yetzias Mitzrayim.
How is it possible to just stop talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim just because there were other miracles? The other miracles aren't as great. How could you forget about Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is the foundation of the emunah? So obviously it will be greater. That someone who thinks that we could just use our own strength and leave the exile on our own, with his own hands, it's completely against the emunah. So either way you learn. If you learn like the first pshat, that it's against Brias Ha'olam, and it's against the Kli Yakar there, with the reason why the Torah had to start with Reish Elokim. Or if you learn like this, that it's against the foundation, which is Yetzias Mitzrayim. Either way, going out of Galus on our own is against the Torah.